ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mike Larkin, one half of the S&M Show podcast, and I'm back today with another interview. I'm on the line with the very talented fallen flower herself, Miss Kikyo. Kikyo, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. This is take two, ladies and gentlemen. Very happy to have you on the line. It's an absolute pleasure. And I just wanted to say thank you so much again for coming on. So let's get right into it. Growing up, talk about who were some of your favorite wrestlers and just the defining moment or, matchup that you said, you know what, this is something that I want to pursue, that being pro wrestling.
Well, when I was really, really young, I was really into the Macho Man. The Ultimate Warrior was somebody, especially as someone who was like 2 or 3 years old, running around the house, of course, and shaking around everything. Jimmy Superfly Snuka was actually another one that I do remember liking a lot because I would take the cushions off the couch and I would do the Superfly off the couch onto the cushions to the floor. Shawn Michaels, of course, getting a little older, and then when I was in middle school, I really enjoyed watching the Hardy Boys and the development of the tag teams in that era, especially coming into the Attitude Era. But the matchup that really made me want to say, like, no, this is definitely what I want to do. Like, so it solidified it for sure, because I've always wanted to be a pro wrestler. But it was the Terry Invitational Tournament Finals between Edge and Christian and the Hardys. Like, watching them do all these crazy jumps off of ladders and, Jeff jumping off the top rope or hanging off of the money bag. Like, that, it was just so insane. And I'm like, no, this is definitely what I want to do. I want to figure out how I can get into this and be where they are.
Absolutely great match that was. That really started off the whole Hardy Boys, Edge and Christian rivalry, and then we had the TLC matches, but probably one of the best spots in that match was the Great Seesaw when Jeff, right on Matt and Christian, one of the best spots.
Oh, definitely. Like, even like the unique way that they set up the ladders and stuff like that. And if you go back and honestly, No Mercy 99 is a great pay-per-view. Like, so many matches that you wouldn't think were like, wow, this happened, and you watch the match and like, holy crap, like these matches were actually really, really good. And I really did enjoy DIY versus AOP during TakeOver, and it was right before DIY broke up, but they paid homage to that match by the way that they set up those ladders. And it was great because I'm sitting here as, now I'm a wrestler, and I'm watching, my friends on TakeOver, and I'm seeing the spots that they're starting to set up, and I'm like, wait a minute, I recognize this because I know this match like the back of my freaking hand. So I was pretty happy to see, some of the little things that they paid homage to.
Absolutely, and I mean, speaking of TakeOver, we just had a great WrestleMania weekend. Gargano and Ciampa tore the house down, and a lot of great shows happening over at WrestleMania weekend, and I got to say this as well. I got to talk about Rise. We're going to talk about your career and all this, but I got to be remiss if I don't mention Rise, because I know Rise is doing the partnership now with Impact Wrestling. A lot of great talents there, such as yourself, Kikyo. That's big for you guys.
Oh, absolutely. This has been something so long coming, and Kevin Harvey does an absolutely amazing job with everything that is on his plate. The partnership with Impact has been something that, if these girls as wrestlers didn't want this to be their goal, like, it really should. You want to get that exposure. You want to put your name anywhere and everywhere you can to, make sure that your bills are paid at the end of the day.
Absolutely,
and to be rubbing shoulders with people like Gail Kim, Scott D'Amore, Sanjay Dutt, like Jimmy freaking Jacobs has been in the background for Rise for quite some time now. Like, if you pay attention to some of the background, sometimes you can see him floating around in the crowd or floating around, up on the stage and stuff like that. So it's been pretty surreal to be able to bump elbows with these types of people and get their feedback and their knowledge.
It's so funny you mentioned Jimmy Jacobs, because I think, obviously, he had a big role in the WWE creative team, and we get to see what he's doing now with Impact Wrestling with the likes of Congo Kong, and just he's overall has a great mind for the business. I think the first time I remember seeing Jimmy was when he wrestled Eddie Guerrero in 2005 on that edition of SmackDown during the Eddie and Ray feud, and the tag team work that he did with BJ Whitman, Ring of Honor, the Ballad of Lacey, the list goes on and on. But another one who's has a very integral role in the business.
Oh, absolutely. And he's a creative genius. Like he just oozes ideas from every pore in his body. Like it's he's just such an interesting person to talk to, especially if you're able to sit there and ask the right questions and get that information from him.
Absolutely, and I got to mention this as well. With the partnership with Impact Wrestling, I mean, there are a lot of great knockouts in there that I'd love to see you go against. I mean, there's Allie's there, you got Sue Young. There's a lot of great, formidable opponents for you there. So I'd love to see them possibly come into fruition in the future.
Oh, absolutely. Like with speaking of Sue Young, it's been almost 6 years now, or at least 5 years since she and I have gotten in the ring together. Before she was the undead bride, and it would be really nice to get in there and rough it up with her and see what kind of amazing story that we could tell.
Absolutely, and you know, one of the things I've had a couple interactions with Sue Young in the past. What's great about her is, and with the likes of yourself, Kikyo, and the great women that are doing their thing now in the biz, you guys have just such an amazing drive and amazing passion for the business, and that's what I love about it because you guys are so humble and so just you're ready to go out there and kick some ass.
Well, coming up as a woman in the business in general, you really have to. Uh, it's definitely a lot harder because there's not as much crap that men have to deal with. Like, yeah, they have the psycho chicks trying to get in their pants and whatnot, but they really don't normally have some weird person who is asking for these really awkward demands or yelling at you because you didn't send them a message back or oh, well, you looked at me the wrong way when I was signing your autograph or something like that. It's just the amount of stupidity that we have to deal with is only equivalent to somebody who's worked in fast food and knows what they're doing.
And it's crazy too, just to see the evolution of it. I mean, with women's wrestling now, I mean, obviously there's so many tournaments, there's so many women's championship being introduced in a lot of great indies. Rise, your Shimmers, your Shines, the list goes on and on. And it's just crazy because everybody talked about women's wrestling back in the day. Obviously, people mentioned the pillow fights, the bra and panties matches, the bikini contests, etc., etc. But I just love the way that you guys are being presented nowadays.
Oh, you mean as actual wrestlers?
Exactly, yes. That's what I'm saying. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's some great from back in the day, Kikyo. I mean, you look at the legendary, like, Fabulous Moolah, Mae Young, Bull Nakano, Alundra Blaze, Medusa, Luna Vachon, your Trishas, your Litas, your Jacquelines, your Molly Hollies, Victorias, the list goes on and on. But I'm just saying, I mean, it's great to see women being presented as what they actually are, and that being professional wrestlers.
Yeah, I mean, it's throughout all of professional wrestling, there's highs and lows when it comes to both men and women wrestling. The 90s, especially like the late 90s, really got the high end of the more sexual matches, being the bra and panties matches and evening gown matches and things of that sort. But like, there was also women during those times that, yeah, they went and did these matches, but they made it make sense. Like, there's an evening gown match between Luna Vachon and Sable. That Luna Vachon, yes, she was very scary and very in your face, but she still went out and did an evening gown match, but she made it make so much sense, and she still kept her strong character, and she didn't allow the overt sexuality of this match diminish what she can do in the ring.
Absolutely, and I know which one you're talking about. And that is a great evening gown match. I do remember that fondly during the Attitude Era days, and it's so funny to see like we mentioned the knockouts, and another one I'll mention. Women of Honor just crowned Sumi Sakai as their first ever Women of Honor champion. A lot of great women in that. You talk about your Kelly Kleins, etc., etc. And it's so funny because I think of like the Shimmer girls that were there back in the days. You look at Rain, you look at Allison Danger, you look at Daisy Hayes, you look at Sarah Del Rey, aka Sarah Amato, and it's just great to see their division pick up in a way. Just women's divisions anywhere, just picking up and just doing it. I mean, you guys got Delilah Doom, and just a lot of great talent over there at Rise as well.
Yeah, the amount of talent that Rise has been able to, bring into Shimmer or find just in general. Like, granted, not everybody's going to get a shot at Shimmer if they come through Rise, but it's definitely a good foot in the door. And I feel like a lot of the girls are like, I don't know if I want to really put this kind of money into the situation, and they don't really think about the opportunities that could come out of this. Especially with Pittsburgh coming up May 11th and 12th. We're going to be in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and teaming up with Impact, and we're going to be doing our first set of Rise set tapings. it's going to be absolutely amazing. And there are so many opportunities that can come out of this with not just Rise and Shimmer and Impact, but just in general. Like, everyone's eyes are on women's wrestling right now.
Agreed. And what I want to talk about now is let's talk about from the beginning here with you, Kikyo. Talk about who you were trained by, and I love asking these questions. Talk about your first ever matchup and that whole experience.
Okay, here we go. So I was originally trained in Fresno, California at North American Wrestling under Money Mike Rain, who some people might know now as JC from Hood Slam. So he was my very first training. And speaking of other people from Hood Slam, I've got Shotzi Blackheart's butt in my face now, who happens to be standing right here with her Joey Ryan t-shirt. And I've got lots of things. But I was trained by... I wish people could see what's going on right now, because they would be paying lots and lots of money for it. Let me compose myself really quick.
Please, you're fine. You're fine. Yeah, I was actually going to ask you about Shotzi, because Shotzi is actually in my notes. You guys have had some great encounters. I love your guys' work in the ring.
That was definitely an encounter that I just had. So.
Totally fine.
We've been traveling for the last week together, and it's been a while since we've gotten to do that. Ever since, because I moved to Florida and I moved back to to the West Coast to Washington, so it's been a minute since she and I have gotten to really hang out.
Gotcha.
So it's definitely interesting when Shotzi Blackheart's around. But no, I was trained by Money Mike Rain, and I ended up jumping ship to Pro Wrestling Bushido when North American Wrestling closed down, and that was ran by Bobby Hart. Was with him for a few years, and then I went to Supreme Pro Wrestling under Virgil Flynn III. Dante, well, his name now is CJ Curse, but formerly known as Dante. The Big Ugly JD Bishop has helped in my training. El Flaco Loco has helped in my training, and there's just so many people in NorCal that people know now, like Timothy Thatcher, Jeff Cobb, J.R. Kratos, people of that sort. Like, they either came up with me or, they helped me come up in the business. Funny Bone has had a hand in my training as well. Just so many people, and especially nowadays that I've been able to travel and meet new people, getting acquiring wrestling moms and dads all over the country, or not even just the country, but all over the world, has been an absolute amazing experience. I can sit there and be like, man, I don't know what to do. Wait, here, let me, hit up this person or that person. What time is it? Let me be able to hit up this person and ask a question or ask advice. Oh, wow. Okay, so, then you said first match, right?
Yes, first match experience.
Let's see, my very, very first match was a dojo show, and I thought I was just hot stuff, man. Like, nothing could go wrong, and I thought I was the best in the world, and then I watched the match back, and I'm just like, oh, no, no. It's so bad, Oh, it's so bad. But that was when I very first started training, and it wasn't even, I almost don't even count it. But when I went with Pro Wrestling Bushido, I went under a different name. I went under a completely different character. And I distinctly remember coming out for this match, and I climbed up the ropes to get my, my heat or whatever, and I heard somebody in the crowd shout and call me Roseanne. Oh. And I remember going to the back afterwards and just crying because I was so upset that somebody called me Roseanne.
Now, all right, first of all, that's cruel. Second of all, let's put it on a higher note here. You've done so much great work with Rise and a lot of great independent promotions. I want to ask you, since Shotzi Blackheart was one who I did have on my list, talk about your overall. You guys had great chemistry in the ring. I love your guys' matchups. Talk about working with her and just the overall experience as well.
I love working with Shotzi. She really is the epitome of a ballsy badass. If there's something crazy that I want to do, she's like, oh, that's great, but what if we did this on top of it? And I'm like, you're insane. Let's do it. We not only have we been opponents, we've been tag team partners. We're known as the Outbreak in certain areas. She's got the green hair, I've got blue hair, kind of swirls around and makes it look like the T-virus. so we call ourselves the Outbreak. There's a matchup that we had at Gold Rush. It was my last match at Gold Rush, and it was for the Lady Luck Championship. It was a no disqualification, basically no rules match. I think we went a good 20 minutes or so, but we tore the house down. She was on her way back from another show. She did another match earlier in the night. Finally got to the other venue. We ended up being main event, and if we weren't main event, it was going to be really, really hard to follow us unless you were somebody of an insane caliber, because Chauncey hit it coast to coast with a trash can. There was ladders involved. There was tables involved. There was thumbtacks involved. I mean, there was blood everywhere. We just tore each other apart, and it's just so easy working with. I actually got to work with her again this weekend, and it's just so easy and so much fun, because I know that she's down for anything. She always has really good ideas because she was trained by people who know what they're doing, and that always helps a lot.
Absolutely, and I'll say this as well right now. You talk about tag teams. You and Shotzi, great tag team. Talk about the Baru Death Squad. You and Ronnie Nicole. I mean, Ronnie's another one that's great. Talk about that experience. You got the team with her and wrestle with her as well. Talk about that overall experience.
That was actually for Rise 1, Ronnie and I, that was the first time that she and I had ever actually physically met. And that's the only time we've actually worked together, aside from one other match that weekend, because it was a Sparkle match, which was right before Shimmer.
Mm-hmm.
But we've only ever worked those 2 times. I mean, it was fun. It's just, it was definitely one of those one-time only kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Things happened afterwards that I really won't get into. It had nothing to do with her and I, but it was just we're probably better off as either opponents or just somewhere else on the card. Okay. I love her to death, though. She's great. It's just, it probably would have been better for a different time frame than what we were able to do.
Understandable, no problem. Actually, I'll give to this one as well. She was actually on my show not too long ago. The Weapon of Vast Destruction, Miss Dementia DeRose. You got to do an encounter with her as well. Talk about working with dementia. I know she also just did a Rise seminar for you guys not too long ago as well. So talk about working with dementia.
Yeah, Dementia actually just did this seminar that we just had, and this chick has been dodging me for 2 years, man. we wrestled each other for Big Time Wrestling a couple of years ago. And we were supposed to work again in Georgia, and it just schedules conflict and whatnot. And so I always poke fun at her and tell her that she's been dodging me, or she's scared to wrestle me, or something like that. But we're actually supposed to work with each other in a triple threat on Thursday for IWA Mid-South for their women's tournament that they're doing. It's myself versus Dementia versus Ruby Rays.
Nice. As far as Ruby Rays goes, that was actually another one. I mean, you've done some stuff with her. Another one that really sticks out is you also work with Sage Sin. Talk about working with Ruby and Sage.
Ruby and I mean, we've had some matches, man. We feuded for a good minute. And we've tied together as well as the Legion of Womb for Freak Show Wrestling. Love her to death. She's been a very good friend to me during my time as a wrestler. When I first met her, she was still a manager, and she hadn't even started training as a wrestler yet. She was managing the original Violence Unlimited, which was Tyler Bateman and Funny Bone, but now it is, I believe, Tyler Bateman and Brody King is now Violence Unlimited. But I remember I think it was right when I came back, while I was taking my hiatus, I remember messaging her, and I'm like, dude, you need to start training, because I think you'd end up killing it. And now look at her 5 years later, she's fucking killing it everywhere.
Exactly. And another one that really sticks out, and we'll bounce back around with some more of your opponents, but this one I wanted to mention. You got to work with Thunder Rosa, a.k.a. Cobra Moon, on Lucha Underground. Talk about that experience, because her and Holodetta's the Twisted Sisters, and her on her solo front as well, has just been killing it as well.
Little known fact, I gave Thunder Rosa her very first match ever.
Nice.
But yeah, we've worked a few times. We were married for a bit, during the Lucha Extreme days. Congratulations to her for her Japan tours and everything that she's accomplished. We haven't really worked together in a few years, and I haven't worked with her since she was, really, really new. So.
All right, now I want to bounce around a little bit. I mean, we talked about pro wrestling. We talked about women's wrestling just evolving and rise, pun intended. Let's talk about intergender wrestling because that's another thing. I got to say, Lucha Underground does great work with it. I've seen a lot of great matches on the indies, and personally, I'm a fan of it. I think the guys and the gals both have great chemistry with each other. You see a lot of it incorporated with Joey Ryan. You see a lot incorporated. James Ellsworth now is one who's like the modern day Andy Kaufman. When Andy Kaufman was the intergender champion of the world, and which built to the Lawler feud, the David Letterman appearance, etc., etc. Talk about the evolution of intergender wrestling as well, because that's another thing. I mean, you got James Ellsworth, intergender champion of the world. I mean, again, modern day Andy Kaufman.
Well, see, when I came into the business, there really is no specific women's wrestling trainers. Mm-hmm. Most of these girls are trained by men as men. We're not trained as women's wrestlers. We're trained as professional wrestlers. So for a lot of us, we never saw a problem with intergender wrestling. And the only problem that ever occurred was the fact of, wait, what do you mean I can't wrestle a dude? Like, I can do the exact same stuff that so-and-so can do. Why can't I wrestle this guy? It was really frustrating for a while, because if there aren't any girls in your area, you either don't get to wrestle at all, or if there happens to be, one or two, it's literally the exact same match over and over and over again, all up and down the state or wherever you're at, because, we don't believe in intergender wrestling. A man shouldn't hit a woman. I've seen girls smaller than me knock a dude out that's 3 times bigger than her on a shoot. And you're going to tell me that I can't wrestle this guy because he might punch me in the face and I might get knocked out? No. If your jaw's made of glass, your jaw's made of glass, no matter what size, gender, whatever you are. Period. You're going down. A kick to the crotch is a kick to the crotch, whether you're a male or a female. But it's really good to see that intergender starting to be a little more accepted, because you did have, the world's cutest tag team with Candice LeRae, Joey Ryan, and Candice has been going all over the country wrestling other men. You've got people like Kimberly and Heidi Lovelace, now known as Ruby Riott, who was another intergender wrestler that made it known all over the place that it's okay to wrestle a guy and still win or still lose, and it still be a good match and still tell a good story, because it's all about how you're going about, say the dude has to win. Okay, cool. But how are you going to get there? You can't just make it seem like, the girl is Superman, but there's a way to tell the story without getting, somebody in trouble or, compromising your character.
Exactly. And I think what it also is for me is because I know some people and some of my wrestling buddies kind of like frown upon the whole intergender thing, and I'm like, the first thing that comes to my mind is just equality. Like, if just go out there. There's so many tough women such as yourself, and there's just so many great guys and gals out there. It's just like, come on, man. You know what I'm saying? It's just the equality factor of it as well.
Yes and no. I mean, it's still, for some people, it's very weird to see, a much bigger male, putting hands on a female, and a lot of people can't get past that assault factor. So it's really up to the wrestlers to bring people over that hurdle and make them realize, okay, this is just a show. But at the same time, we still have to suspend your disbelief in thinking, oh man, is he really going to hit her? Oh my gosh, I can't believe she's being such a bitch to this guy. Like, I hope he punches her in the face. So it's just getting over that hurdle of the stigma of a man hitting a woman or a woman hitting a man.
Agreed. I want to touch upon a couple more of your opponents here. You got to work with Allie Parker, who I actually had on my show yesterday. Put you over very big. Loves getting in the ring with you. Talk about working with Allie Parker.
The one that I remember working with Allie Parker was at FSW. And I remember going to the back afterwards, and D'Lo Brown was like, you guys went out there and just killed it. I'm sorry, I have a black heart on my back and a shirt over my head.
No worries.
So yeah, you're gonna get a little mini cameos of Shotzi Blackheart throughout the podcast.
Please, Shotzi's awesome. I just saw her on Ambi not too long ago. She's awesome. I got no problems.
Yeah, I'm just sitting here. I'm trying to keep it straight, but nope. I have a shirt over my head. This is a thing that's happening. But back to Ali Fairker. But yeah, we wrestled at Future Stars of Wrestling in Las Vegas, and I remember going to the back and talking to D'Lo Brown about the match, and he was so impressed and happy to see a good match out there, especially for women, because I mean even now FSW really doesn't have a lot of women's wrestling, but to at least go out there in an area that doesn't have it very often and put on a good showing was really cool and a lot of fun to go out and do.
One other one that really sticks out for me is because she was participated in the Mae Young Classic and has done her thing in Shimmer and just all around the world as well. Nicole Savoy, talk about that experience.
I knew you were going to talk about Mama Nicole. That's my mom. If it, I don't know if anybody had seen my recent Instagram post, but on, the shootiest of shoots, if it wasn't for Nicole Savoy, I would not be where I am today at all whatsoever. She and I, originally we had a rocky start, and we were able to hash things out, and afterwards, she really became, not only a friend, a sister, but she's been a mentor and inspiration. Every single time I get in the ring with Nicole Savoy, she makes me, she elevates me, and because she knows what I can do, and she knows the untapped potential, and she gets me out of my head, and she forces me to think a different way about everything. She was the one who told me about Rise. She's the one who's been on my butt trying to, make me better and try and to not only elevate my character, but to elevate me as a person. And if it wasn't for her, I really don't know where I would be right now in my career or even in my life.
One name I will also mention as well, because I saw her not too long ago doing her thing on the Northeast, competed in the Psycho Circus out here for the New York Wrestling Connection on Long Island. Tara Calloway. Got some exchanges with Tara as well. Talk about that.
Yeah, one of the first times that I got to work with Tara Calloway was right after I changed my name over to Kikyo. And I remember coming out of the match talking to my first trainer, Mike Rain, and I was like, hey, how was the match? And I will never forget this, because he told me it wasn't just good for a girls' match, it was a good match. And that's all we ever want. It shouldn't be, it was all right for a girls' match, because in comparison, it's like, oh, well, that was a really crappy dudes' match. So to hear that we, put on a good match, whether gender was a part of it or not, was just an amazing thing to hear. And then she was also my original Legion of Womb tag team partner. It started out with her and I. We were Joey Ryan's bodyguard against Funny Bone at Freak Show Wrestling, and then it ended up being myself and Ray's, and I've also teamed up with Kat Von Hughes. So I'm kind of like the original Legion of Womb member.
One other one that sticks out is, I believe you had a triple threat match with these ladies, Leva Bates and Amber Nova, who we've seen on Impact Wrestling television as well. Leva Bates, Blue Pants, NXT. Talk about working with those ladies.
Amber Nova's a lot of fun to throw around because she weighs all of 2 pounds.
Yes.
She weighs about, I'm exaggerating, but legitimately she weighs 95 pounds. So it's really fun just to toss her around. I absolutely love working with Leva Bates. I got to work with her this past weekend for Shimmer. It was myself and Dee Dynamite versus Team T4, Delilah Doom, and Leva Bates, who are the current tag team champions with Shimmer, which was a lot of fun. I've gotten to work a custom with her where she saved her Dragon Ball Z gear for me. So if anybody wants to see, Goku Bates versus Kikyo. Go over to slamandladies.com and go order it now because it's one hell of a match. It was so much fun. Like, I almost made Leva laugh, and she's normally the one getting everyone else to break character. So for me to make Leva Bates laugh, I was like, yep, check, bucket list done, got it. And we're actually, it's going to be finally we get a one-on-one match in front of people in Hermiston, Oregon, and this will be June 8th for Prestige Wrestling. And Scorpio Sky and DJZ is also another announced match for that card as well.
One other one, then we'll bounce around again. Roxy Rouge. You got to work with Miss Roxy Rouge. Talk about that as well.
Oh, I love Roxy. She absolute sweetheart. She helped me with my gear when I had gotten it. I had just gotten my gear, and there was just so many things wrong with it. I had even paid extra money for this gear to be in on time, and she ended up helping me out and fixing my gear. She definitely helped my mental state when I moved to Florida. She became a really, really good friend, and I think she was maybe one of the very first people I got to work when I got out there too. So it was nice to work somebody around my size. She's real tall and thick. She's not this tiny little person, and I like that that's starting to become a trend around women's wrestling. You know, you don't see these little tiny divas for the most part anymore. You see girls who are normal, like, well, quote unquote normal sized, or they don't all look like they're supposed to be on the Victoria's Secret / Playboy runway.
All right, now I want to touch base on this because I don't want to be remiss if I don't touch base on this. Gokumon, you, Bull Nakano, Dynamite, Didi, Chris Wolf. I mean, then you got Medusa up in there. Two greats have had great feuds with each other. Just talk about being around such greats like Bull Nakano and Medusa.
So when I found out that Bull Nakano was doing a seminar for Rise, obviously there was no way in hell I could miss this. Like, this is someone that I've looked up to my entire career. Because when she was popular, it was when I was very, very young. So maybe, I wasn't really able to find her. And then the internet didn't really come out until much later on for me to be able to even find her in general. So I remember doing the Aja Kong seminar the month prior. And that was an absolutely amazing experience because we had Aja, we had Aoi, we had, I think, who else was there? Yamada was there. There was so many amazing Joshis that weekend. And then the day after Rise, it was the first day of Shimmer. I had gotten a Sparkle match. I'm like, okay, cool. Let me just do really good in the Sparkle match. Maybe I'll get on the card tomorrow. And I went to go hit my Frog Splash, and I Eddie Guerrero'd myself and dislocated my elbow.
Ooh.
And all I could think about laying in the middle of that ring was that Bull Nakano's seminar is in 3 weeks, and now I can't do it because my arm is broken. Because I didn't know it was just dislocated at the time. All I saw was my arm out of place. I'm like, I just broke my arm. I can't believe I just broke my arm. And I rehabbed as much as I could, and I was able to get it to at least straighten out and put some kind of weight on it by the time Bull Nakano's seminar came out. And I remember going to California, and I was going to go no matter what. I mean, flight was already paid for, tickets were already taken care of. Like, there was no way I, at the very least, wasn't going to meet her and be like, oh my God, she's in front of me, she's real. And I remember seeing her get out of the car, and I just started crying because I was like, this is really happening. Like, she's a real person, and she's here, and I'm about to learn from her whether I can do something or not, because you can always learn even by watching. And I remember cheerleader Melissa was also someone who was doing the seminar that day that was teaching everyone. And the very first move that we did was a handstand roll. And I hadn't put that much pressure on my arm in 3 weeks, and I didn't know if it was going to hold up. And thank God it did. I almost started crying because I was so happy that it held up. Was able to do the seminar, and then I found out that I was wrestling Melissa later that night. So I'm like, okay, cool. And then they told us everything else that was going on. I'm like, You're joking, right? This isn't real. You're not actually doing this. Wait, this is seriously real? And of course, I started crying all over again because to be put into something like Gokumanto, that that is like the ultimate stable of stables for female wrestling. Bull Nakano, Aja Kong, there's so many names that go alongside Gokumanto and the legacy that it holds. And now I get to, stand alongside one of my good friends, Dee Dee Dynamite, who I met through Rise, and then, I was able to see in Florida quite often when I was still there.
And I'll tell you right now, I've seen a lot of the work that's been gone through with Gokumanto, yourself, Bull Nakano, a lot of the greats there. I'm loving the work, and I'll tell you right now, with the utmost sincerity and respect towards you, Kikyo, I truly wish you nothing but the best going forward. I've been loving your work. So before we do close out of this, I want to just invite you once more. If you ever want to come back on for another time, I'd be happy to have you. Hello? Hello, Kikyo? Hello? Hello, hello? Kikyo? Hello? Hello? Kikyo? Can you hear me? Oh. Fans, we're going to try to get Kikyo back on the line here. Give me 2 seconds. Call her right back. Alright, close out of that. Let's try this one more time here, folks. As we get Kikyo back on the line here. Yeah. Hello?
That was weird.
Yeah, it's totally fine. No, we were actually I was just actually saying to you, I've been loving your work, and with the utmost sincerity and respect, I truly wish you nothing but the best going forward. I'm loving the work that you're doing with Gokumanto.
Thank you very much. It's definitely been an emotional roller coaster because that whole day it was like, okay, I get to train with Bull Nakano. Cool. Wait, I get to wrestle cheerleader Melissa, the person, that I've been looking up to since I started wrestling, because that was the top female at the time, aside from Sarah Del Rey and Candice LeRae. Hell yeah. Oh, by the way, also, during the middle of yours and Melissa's match, Gokumanto is going to reform and Bull Nakano is going to put her stamp on you guys. Wow. Holy crap. That's amazing. Oh, by the way, I need you by the curtain later on after this match because we have an announcement to make. Okay, no problem. Hey, y'all, come on out to the ring. Walk, walk, walk. Hey, by the way, you guys are going to Japan and going to debut for Stardom on their 7-year anniversary at Korakuen Hall. No big deal, right?
Yeah. Oh, my God. Now, I will say this also to you, Kikyo, as well. I have a couple final questions, but if you ever want to come back on again, I'd be more than happy to have you.
Oh, for sure. No, I love doing podcasts. It just depends on when my phone or my computer is being, not a douchebag.
And please, it's no problem. So if you guys heard like a quick dropout, it's fine. And I even said take two at the beginning of this because I know you were charging up your stuff. My computer crapped out. All in all, please, I'm very happy that we got into this into fruition, and it was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Absolutely, yeah, I had a lot of fun.
Before we do close out, I'll say this right now to your cameo guest, the lovely Miss Ballsy Badass herself, Shotzi Blackheart. If she ever wants to come on, I'd be more than happy to have her as well. She's an awesome human being.
Yeah, she's definitely an interesting one to talk to, too. So
yeah, please. If
you ever want a good podcast, Shotzi Blackheart for sure.
Absolutely, please. I love what I do, and I love that we got the chance to do this tonight. But before we do close out, we talk about injuries as well. I wanted to bring this up because, you talked about your elbow and, the whole seminar. Dr. D. David Schultz, the legendary Dr. D. David Schultz. I wanted to bring this up because this was actually not too long ago. He just put out a book called Don't Call Me Fake, which pretty much is a tie into the whole thing back in the 80s, with the whole him slapping John Stossel for calling professional wrestling the F word, that other F word being fake. And besides the elbow, knock on wood, how's the injuries been for you? Because I know a lot of people bounce back, and unfortunately sometimes it does ruin careers, and wrestling is not ballet, but just talk about it. What you guys and gals do is just, it's not ballet, pretty much.
So a lot of people don't realize, and actually a lot of wrestlers don't even realize, that every time we hit that mat, it's like being inside of a 25-mile-per-hour car crash every single time. So if you imagine yourself being in a car crash multiple times in 15 minutes, at that, you know, or even 5 minutes. You're hitting that mat 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times within 5 minutes. That's how many car crashes is that? That's insane.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the amount of whiplash that these people get. Me personally, I've broken my pinky finger off of a sliced bread number 2, which was the weirdest thing. My hand ended up getting caught underneath her body, and when she landed, my arm went with it, and my finger went sideways, and I was like, oh, that's a thing. All right then. I've almost broken my ankle. I ended up rolling into the rope because I was too close, and my foot was pushed back too far. And I ended up wrestling on it like a day and a half later with Sage Sin, who we mentioned earlier. And then my elbow was the other really bad one. Those are the only things that are like, that really took me out for a good minute.
Now, again, before I have you promote the upcoming events and the social medias as well, I got to ask you, any advice for any guy or gal that wants to pursue a career in professional wrestling? What advice would you give them?
Research your school. Research. Like go to your, if your particular school that you want to go to has shows that they put on, go to those shows. Talk to people. Once you do find a school that you want to go to, be a sponge. Like don't do what I do and talk a million miles an hour and have, you know, a bazillion and one opinions. Be a sponge, shut your mouth, and listen, because you're gonna go so much farther, so much more quickly, and you're gonna be better for it. I wish I would have had that knowledge when I was starting, and even now, like I'm still learning, and I've been around since 2009. Like there's never a time where you're not learning, and if you feel like you've learned absolutely everything, then it's time to leave. Because even Ric Flair, who's not even in the business anymore, is still learning something every single time that he comes around. So there is nothing that you cannot learn at some point.
Well said, and facts, true facts right there. Kikyo, please promote the Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and the upcoming events. If you would like to reiterate, please go right ahead. The floor is yours.
Absolutely. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, Snapchat. All of it literally is all Fallen Kikyo. I keep it nice and simple. FALLENKIKYO. And you can find me absolutely anywhere. If you end up finding, you know, some stuff with Inuyasha, just put in Fallen Flower and you should be okay. My next shows coming up will be IWA Mid-South for the women's tournament. That's this coming Thursday. And then this Friday on 420, we have the Candido Cup. It'll be me and Shotzi Blackheart in the tournament together. We're the only females in this entire tournament, the entire thing whatsoever. And then next week, I will be back in Washington next Friday, I believe. Yeah, it's either next Friday or next Saturday. You can find it on my Facebook because I always update my cover photo for the shows that I have coming up. I will be wrestling Funny Bone at Cascade Championship Wrestling, and then the following day I will be going up to Bremerton to take on Sizzling Sand Styles, which will be definitely an interesting match if anybody's ever seen his Hotties of the Week video.
I'm looking forward to checking that work out, and I really look forward to, as I said, Rise is a great promotion. We talked about the partnership with Impact Wrestling, and I just look forward to the future for yourself, Kikyo. And any final words for the fans?
Yeah, if you guys ever want to see anything related to Rise, you can go to risewrestling.com. You can subscribe to riseascent.com for $4.99 a month. That not only gets you Rise Sensation that just happened, but you can also look at all past 6.5 Rises that we've had. Yes, there is a 6.5. All of the rest of the Rise shows that have happened. You can also look at some of the AAW women's matches that we have. If you want to go to the Global Wrestling Network, Rise is also on the Global Wrestling Network right now because of our partnership with Impact. And if this is something that you guys want to do, freaking go for it, man. You only got one life to live. Don't miss out on something that, you know, hey, maybe it might not be for you, but you won't know that until you try.
Agreed. And Kikyo, again, all I can say is thank you so much for your time tonight, and I really do, again, wish you nothing but the best going forward. Love your work, and you do have a bright future ahead. I'm loving it. So, Kikyo, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome. All right, guys, this will conclude another interview. Talk to you soon. Bye.